Hello, guys. Welcome back to another exciting episode on the show, Hidden Secrets in Books. And you guys know I only bring the best of guests to the show. I take out my time to go out there and sort out for the best guest on the show. And today's guest is John Verrico, a leadership coach, international speaker, retired U.S. Navy Master Chief, nine-time international best-selling author, podcast host, and self-described professional storyteller who has spent more than 4 decades helping people communicate, lead, and inspire. John's career has taken him through journalism, stand-up comedy, theater, public affairs, small business consulting, military leadership. But perhaps his most unique inspiration came from classic monster movies, where he discovered that events that even the underdog could overcome impossible odds. Today, John teaches leaders how to keep their inner touch burning, an approach built on trust, opportunity. An approach built on trust, opportunity, respect, communication, and humanity, helping individuals and organizations build stronger relationships, healthier cultures, and more resilient teams. John, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Dominic. It's great to be here.
All right, so you often say that classic monster movies shaped your life. Tell us what inspired you as a child and what did those films teach you?
It's funny when you think about how we can be influenced by the television and the movies that we watch, the books we read. All of those things do have impact on us. And when I was a kid, I was a little kid. I was undersized. I was only 5'3" and weighed 110 pounds when I graduated high school at the age of 18. So I was easily a target for bullies. And in the classic monster movies, in the old monster movies, no matter how big and bad and nasty the monster was, the little guy still wound up winning in some way, shape, or form. And so that was my inspiration. I realized that, the bullies don't win. And so that's really kind of what shaped my outlook on life, was understanding that we can overcome any challenge, any sort of threat, just by being persistent and being confident and realizing that we can make a difference. It was interesting in a lot of those movies. It wasn't always even the the hero of the movie who made the difference to defeat the monster. A lot of times, it was some lesser character, some some little very short interaction with this minor character in the movie that made all the difference. Sometimes it was the kid who swore he saw a monster and nobody would listen to him until finally they did. And then all of a sudden, then people realized what they were facing. So all of those things were important to me, to understand that, the little guy, the littlest person can make the most significant difference.
All right, John, thank you so much for that wonderful answer. So, my next question for you is this. So, talking about what can people today learn from those classic monster movies, What can they learn from those classic monster movies and the heroes who faced impossible odds?
I think stories of resilience and overcoming challenge are always what inspire people. And so if you look at stories in the Bible and in mythology, uh, all of those stories, the things that people read, the things that we learn from them, are stories of resilience and stories of being able to overcome, and that's what inspires people to keep going on in and having being resilient in the face of adversity. And in the classic monster movies, it was done just a little bit more entertaining way, and sometimes over the top because you've got this giant monster that couldn't possibly really exist. But when you look at these giant, overwhelming, horrific monsters in comparison to perhaps your own challenges that you're facing, it makes your challenges seem much smaller. And if people can overcome defeating, Godzilla, how how then could they can easily, if they can overcome fighting something like that, how easy then would it be to overcome losing a job or a loved one or whatever. You can find a way through. Also, in those movies, you realize that no matter how big and bad the monster seems, they are not all powerful. They can be defeated. And a lot of times, the monster is not as bad as you think it is. A lot of times, the monster is really misunderstood. If you look at the Frankenstein monster, he was not intentionally uh, out to kill people and to terrorize. His He was really a neglected, abused, special needs child who did not know how to find love and was rejected at every turn, was turned away because he was ugly, um, or horrific, and so people feared him, and out of fear they treated him with violence, and so he knew nothing else but violence. And so when you have some empathy with toward each other, you can avoid things from going awry and realize that maybe the monsters aren't as horrible as you think, and maybe they just needed to be treated differently. There were a lot of lessons to be pulled from these things.
All right, John. So you have had one of the most diverse careers. Do you believe that? Hi, John.
Hello.
I said you have had one of the most diverse careers. Do you believe that?
Of course.
So,
Of
how
having a
did all
diverse
those
career is
experiences?
important. I think we need to sample different things and understand different perspectives and try things. And I come from a background where I had a blue collar father who um, had to leave school at an early age to help support his family. And uh, the way he would and when I say his family, I'm talking about supporting his mother and his siblings because he had to leave school um, at around 13 years old because his father passed away. And so my father, in order, when later on in life when he got married and had his own family, he would do whatever it took to keep the family fed. He would learn how to a different trade. He would learn how to do things so that if a job opened up, let's say somebody needed a house painted, he would learn how to paint a house so that he can go and do that. So he encouraged us to learn something new every day and to try everything and realize that no job, nothing is beneath you.
Okay, so tell us what inspired you to become a motivational speaker and leadership trainer.
It's certainly not something I thought I would be capable of doing, certainly as a youth. What has happened throughout my career is I have focused on, and without realizing it, it was very subtle. I focused on helping others realize their value. And that was because, it took me a while to realize that I had value, being picked on by the bullies and all of that. I didn't think I had much to offer the world. But, being inspired by the monster movies and ultimately finding my own talents and skills as I tried all these different jobs in a diverse career, whether I was cooking in the back room, in the kitchen of a restaurant, or selling men's clothes, or working on electrical equipment as an electronics technician. Each time I found that I would discover new ways to accomplish things, or I would try something a little bit different and find a solution to a problem. And once I found those, I was very eager to share those things to help others overcome the same problems. As I continued throughout my career, both in the Navy and in civilian occupations, I found myself realizing that everybody has this potential. Everybody can make a difference, but a lot of times they are held back by their environment, by their boss, by other people in their surroundings. And so, if they can be given the opportunity to realize the value that they have, to realize that what they do makes a difference, well, then first of all, they feel better about their own selves, but then they actually wind up working harder, being being more pride, putting more pride in their work, and that becomes very obvious, and other people around them start to emulate that as well. And it's very, very beneficial across the whole spectrum of the organization. And so it wasn't, um, like I said, necessarily intentional that I was doing this, or maybe it was subconsciously. But that's what I kept doing, and I kept finding ways to promote the little guy. And when I got into public affairs, which was really my career path, helping to tell the stories of the Navy and the government agencies that I worked for. Not the politics, by the way. I always stayed away from politics because politics is horrible. but but understanding the work that is done by people who work in government organizations, as well as in companies and everything else, that whole focus was to tell the stories, and not the story of the boss, not the story of the political official, not the story of the program manager, but the story of the person who actually does the work, humanizing the organization to their customer base, but also raising that feeling of that what they do matters, and raising the pride level of the people doing the work. And so it started out by helping people to prepare for a media interview or to give a presentation, helping their improve their communication skills. And so that subtle training became more formalized training throughout the process. And I realized that that's what I loved doing more than anything else. And it ultimately just evolved. And next thing you know, I'm on stages in front of hundreds and thousands of people, spreading these messages of how to improve their communication skills, their leadership potential, working better with others. Um, and like I said, when I was a kid, I didn't say I'm going to grow up to be a motivational speaker. And a lot of people that I went to school with, looking back, are reaching out now, many, many years later. And by the way, this year is my 50th high school reunion. And I've got so many of the people who were in school with me, some of them were my bullies, who are now reaching out and connecting with me, um, and are just surprised at the kinds of work that I'm doing now compared to the person who was forced to be a little bit shy when I was younger.
Okay, John, thank you so much. That was a wonderful answer. So, you call yourself a torch bearer, right?
Yes.
So what what does torch stand for, and why is it such a powerful leadership work?
So the torch is a form of light. And this also goes back to the old classic monster movies too. You know, when they were monsters always operate in the dark. They uh, the greatest weapon that a monster has is the fear that they cause, and the fear is caused because you don't see or don't understand what it is that you're facing. And so, when in the old monster movies, people would try to seek out the monster or want to see what it is that they're facing, they would bring a torch for to provide the light so they can see it. That light is what is so incredibly important. And then realizing, you know, what light you bring with one candle, with one torch, is certainly helpful. But if you've got somebody else with another candle or another torch, that adds, you know, the light compounds. And the more people with torches, the more light you have, the better the illumination, and everyone benefits. That is where that concept of being a torchbearer comes from. But torch did become for me an acronym that combines the elements that I found that kept me motivated when I was treated with these things, uh, and or when these elements were present in the workforce or in the environment or in my encounters with other people. Keep in mind that applies not just to the workspace but also to personal relationships. And those things that kept me connected, that made me want to spend time with people, that made me want to do a better job, all of those things were started with trust. Trust being probably the most important element in any relationship, right? We can't really give of ourselves and be vulnerable with others, and open ourselves up unless we feel that we can trust that other person. And uh, and similarly, we want to be able to feel as if we are trusted as well, because if we're treated with suspicion, you know, we're going to act differently as well. So trust was a very strong foundational element for me. The Obviously the next piece of that is, it's nice to be trusted to do something, but it's even better if you're given the opportunity to try it. Don't tell me I'm too small or I'm too weak or I'm not good enough to do something. Let me try to do it, and maybe I'll surprise you. Maybe I'll be able to do it. That opportunity, if you give me opportunity, it shows me that you trust me, right? So those things kind of build upon themselves. The the other piece that was important to me was respect and understanding that mutual respect between two people is it builds that trust as well. But respecting people for who they are, for what they do, for what they bring to the table, for their life experiences. You know, nobody deserves to be disrespected. Everybody should feel that they are respected, if for nothing else than just for who they are. The biggest practical element for me, because I was in the communication field helping people tell stories, is communication. And that communication is, well, without communication, you can't have trust, right? You're not providing opportunity. You're not giving respect if you're not communicating openly and honestly with people. So communication is absolutely key. And so I keep saying these things are absolutely key. And you're seeing a pattern here, right? Every one of these is very important, and each one adds to the other. The final element that I know kept me motivated and helped me in tough times, and also helped to create better relationships, was being treated with humanity and understanding that we're all human beings and we all have things going on in our life, in our past, and in our hopes, in our desires, in our present situation. We may have something going on in our life that we would love to celebrate. We may have things going on in our life that are very traumatic, and you don't know what's going on in somebody's life. So understanding that we're all human, we do make mistakes, we are fallible, but also we have loves and desires, and and histories. When we are understood and seen as a human being, when we are communicated with openly and honestly, when we're respected, when we're given opportunity to try things, and we are trusted, all of those things are the elements that within any relationship, whether it's a workplace relationship or a personal one, that's what keeps those bonds tight. That's what keeps us motivated to stay in those relationships and to do our best. So that's what built out to what became the acronym for TORCH: trust, opportunity, respect, communication, and humanity.
Okay, John, thank you so much. So, you have experienced both military discipline and creative freedom. You have a very, very fast career. So, how do you structure and how do you structure creativity work together other than competing?
I'm sorry, Dominic. There was an audio glitch there, and I didn't catch the question. How do we
Okay,
structure creative
okay. So
work?
you have
Okay.
experienced it. Just wait. You have experienced both military discipline and creative freedom. Tell us how structure and creativity work together other than competing for each other.
Oh, wow. That is a deep question, and I love it. So, structure is important in order to keep things focused, right? We need to have some form of structure to keep us on our path and to understand what the final goal is. Creativity without structure doesn't necessarily produce anything. And at the same time, structure without creativity doesn't allow for growth. It does not allow for the opportunity to come up with something new. If you have the same structure and just do things by rote, then what happens is you don't come up with anything new. And you're just doing the same thing all the time over and over and over again, which means you will always get the same result. And if you want to see better results or different results, you need to get creative. I was very, very fortunate in one opportunity that I had working with an organization where I had probably the most influential boss in the fact that he took about 10% of the budget and put it towards projects that were likely to fail. Now, that seems kind of stupid, right? It seems like you're throwing away about 10% of your money. But what his thought was that if people can be, if these, bizarre ideas can be successful, they could be game changers. They can, take us in a new direction. They could be, very prolific, profitable for the company. They can also have, impactful results. But right now, nobody's doing these things. So maybe we should give them a try. But by doing that, he also gave people the freedom to be creative and remove the fear of failure. And he said, if this works, it'll be a game changer, and if it doesn't, we'll have learned from it. And that allowed people to kind of stretch beyond their what they would normally do. It allowed them to look at things through a different lens and say, okay, I can try this in a new way. I can look at this from take a new approach. And he empowered them to make those decisions, take calculated risks, try things in new ways. And surprisingly, some of those impossible projects actually did bear fruit and came to fruition. Those projects wound up turning into products that were game changers in the market and made significant differences. And they would have been impossible if everything was done in a very structured way and everybody kept to the safe path and only worked on things they knew would have the an intended outcome. But that creativity element is critical for being able to. You don't want to ever stay static. If you want to change or you want to grow, you need to have some creativity and take some chances.
Okay, John. So if you would leave every listener with one piece of advice about leadership from this entire conversation, what would you want them to be? What would you want the advice to be?
If we're speaking on the leadership front, that would probably be the best perspective. I would say, and this is not only on leadership but also in life itself, and remember that you're not alone. Um, Whatever you're facing, whatever your challenge is, whatever you're trying to accomplish, um, you have the strength, uh, but you're not alone, and you can reach out and ask for help. Understanding too that other people can contribute, no matter who you are, no matter what a big deal you might think you are. You could be the CEO of the top company or whatever. You can't do it alone. Um, and so remember that, appreciate others and the contributions that they make. Everybody matters. Everybody can make a difference. You have the opportunity to be significant and make a difference as well. But the important piece is to remember that there are others who help to support you and get you through.
Before you go, is there a question you wish I would have asked you? Something that you wish I would have given you the opportunity to share with me? Yes, a question you wish I would have asked you, or something you would like to share that I have not asked you. Okay, John. So before you go, is there a question you wish I would have asked you?
I wish you would have asked me if I wanted $1 million.
You want, do you want $1 million?
I took you by surprise on that one, didn't I?
Yeah. Do you want $1 million?
Sure, why not? I always tell people, I'm in my late 60s now, and I'm working on my second million. But that's because the first one didn't work out, so I just decided to start over.
Okay, so
Dominic,
honestly,
life is not about money. It's about the impact that you have on the world. And our most important thing to remember is that uh, our legacy is not the stuff that we've acquired over the course of our life, but it's how we'll be remembered. And how we'll be remembered is how we treated people.
okay, John, thank you so much. This has been a very, very exciting episode. So, for those who want to reach out to you and learn more about what you do, how can they do that?
I'm pretty easy to find. JohnVerrico.com is my website, although it does need some updating. I'm on LinkedIn and Facebook, easy to find there. You can pick up a copy of any of the Art of Connection 365 Days of Quotes books. I'm a contributing author in all of those. And I just launched my own podcast called Share Your Fire. So definitely look for me there on all your favorite podcast channels.
All right, John, thank you so much. And thanks to my audience as well. You guys make sure to check out John's work and check him out. Check out his website as well. I will leave all the links on the show notes of the episode. And so if this episode is speaking to you, do very well to share it to someone out there who might need to hear this. Thank you, John, and have a wonderful day ahead.
Thank you, you too.